49-14.
Yet to be fully understood. Many predict even if the drought breaks, problems will plague the sport for many years to come.
The headlines speak for themselves. Right across the country, the situation is the same. Drought is striking at the heart of the racing industry.
This is the biggest drought that I've been training in for sure. You know, we had one back in the early 80s or early 90s, you know, but never as bad as what this is.
I've got a property 10 minutes outside of Queanbeyan in Canberra and right on the Molonglo River, and it hasn't been flowing for about at least 3 months. And conditions, I mean, got no feed whatsoever at the moment. So we're hand feeding all the stock and they're going through it.
Choking dust storms. Bone-dry tracks. Images that bring home the extent of what is becoming a chronic problem. In Ballarat at the recent trials, rampaging bushfires created a blanketing haze, yet another indication of a growing crisis.
Look, it's not good on their lungs. I mean, last week in Canberra we had the fire down there, the smoke haze, and that was really hard. You wouldn't want to have galloped horses in it.
The youngsters I've had to hold back. See, we've got about 15 2-year-olds out in the paddock, and I'm just holding them back for a little while yet because we own them, and so we can do that. Sizzling under a scorching sun, parched paddocks are turning into dust bowls. Feed is in short supply, and with demand high, prices are soaring.
I'm trying to get oats at the moment, and I've got my daughter to ring around a few places last week, and it's like if you can get it, $500 a tonne plus delivery, but it's not easy to get anywhere.
We've got a stud too, and I've just bought 3 semi-trailer loads of hay, and I've got another one coming next, and that'll take me right through to next Christmas. But I don't know where it's going to come from there, because if they don't have the rain, they won't get the feed, and that's it. You know, it's just going to be very hard. And it's that great unknown that leaves many predicting this looming threat will menace many aspects of the industry.
Some of the foals that are being born this year, because of the lack of feed and things like that, we may get problems associated with poor growth of these horses, and you know, as they're coming through it may start to develop, you know, even not just now, but in 2 or 3 years' time, we might be seeing problems with some of the developmental things that can occur in young foals that may start to come through later.
I think it's had a huge impact on the producing of horses and also galloping horses. There's no doubt about it. We had 2 horses in training with good trainers in Toowoomba. They both broke down, and they just said the tracks were like rock. Nobody's fault, wasn't the trainer's fault. And we've had a whole lot of owners who've just said we cannot afford to breed this year.
We had a race meeting at Orange last week on the Thursday, and it's probably going to be the last race meeting we'll hold there until it rains. We've got no water at all there now. We've got the Cup coming up there on the 9th of March, and we'll make a decision by next Friday with the Country Racing Council. But with not a drop of water left there at all, the Cup will probably be put back a couple of months till the 4th of May, where we've got another date there. And it's really going to have a major impact on racing, because a town like Orange has got 100 racehorses in work, and it's you know, those horses are relied on for all those meetings around Bathurst, Wellington Park, Stubbo and that. So no, it's in dire straits out there.
Yeah, it's quite chronic, isn't it? And Joe, from the grassroots level up, it's going to affect all areas, or is affecting all areas of racing.
Yeah, it's very sad. Particularly in New South Wales, the situation has got to really dire straits, as Brian Fletcher just outlined. Then Orange, of all the tracks around New South Wales, looks to be the one in the most trouble.
Yeah, it's distressing, really. I'm a city boy through and through, and I don't understand, you know, all of the drought situation. But after seeing pictures, you know, the last 6 months, you've got to understand it's a very, very dire situation.
Well, here in Victoria, already a couple of TAB meetings have been transferred from one track to another because the tracks have been so parched by the drought that it wasn't possible to race on them. And the prediction here is that this all-embracing effect of the drought will put lesser trainers out of business within months.
Well, country racing obviously going to be the worst affected, because not only does it affect the racing itself, like in Orange, but it affects their owner base. I mean, the fall in economic activity because of the drought will wipe a lot of people out of racing. It's the first thing that goes, is the luxury that's the racehorse. And the feed situation, well, the costs are up now, but just by rain arriving in the autumn, that's not going to help the cost of feed because all the oats and that is harvested during the summer. It hasn't grown, so there's no oats to have for next spring and next Christmas until the next harvest. So the feed situation is going to stay expensive for the rest of this year, and you are going to see training fees go up because of that, and that will affect more owners who will drop out of the game. So there'll be a compounding effect. The only thing you can hang on to is that they say good horses are like good wine. They do, the best of them do come in drought years, but, you know, it's cold comfort for those who are suffering.
Considering the circumstances, though, country people and racetracks and racing people are coping remarkably well at the moment, Graham. And Jeff Housefield, who's the chairman of stewards out at Orange, made an interesting point to me during the week too, that the biggest concern now is when the drought breaks. We're going to lose a lot of horses that are currently racing to the spelling paddock. So we're going to have a huge decline in numbers of horses racing when that drought eventually does break.
How do we help? How do, you know, what do we do? Is there anything we can do?
Pray for rain. It's about all you can do, because that's the only thing that's going to change the situation is rain.
Should we put on, looking on putting on some sort of a levy, like a Medicare levy for racetracks to help raise money for this? Because it's, I mean, the ongoing effect, the long-term effect, not so much now, well, it's happening now, but next year and the year after that.
For farmers, they get subsidised in these severe conditions, don't they? So what then happens to the racing industry? Should the industry put something in place to help these people?
Are you suggesting that the TABs should do that, Graham?
I don't know. I'm posing the question. What do you mean?
Well, I don't. Eventually, it's got to come from the punting dollar.
Mate, the industry gets a lot of money out of off-course investment, doesn't it? I'm suggesting the TAB have been very supportive of the drought. Let me tell you. What are you like that for?
I'm just surprised that you know. I just don't know how that's... Unless you get rain, I don't know how it's going to help.
That's right.
It'd be a drop in an ocean.
What about the hobby trainer, the poor trainers out there in the bush?
I feel for them.
They're really in trouble too.
But they'll tell you, what they need is rain.
Yeah. They don't need money, they need rain.
Yeah. Oh, no, we all know that. It's right. If you don't have rain, you've got to have something else in place, and we've got to start looking at it. I just had some figures given to me here. Oats, for example, normally $120 to $150 a tonne, now up from $450 to $600 a tonne.
Well, that'll be just passed on to the owner.
I know.
Well, it hasn't been yet. I mean, training fees, to my knowledge, have not started to increase yet, but it'll have to happen.
Oh, you're a bit slow. If you can put them up.
OK.
Yep. We're bound to skyrocket. Anyhow, that's just to... I think it's a stark realisation of what's going on there in our industry, let alone what's happening to all the other people affected by the drought right up and down the eastern seaboard of Australia. We're heading off to a break. Andrew Bensley will be here in just a moment with all the latest news. We'll also have a big race out of New Zealand, the Tasmania Derby, to having a wager on a well-backed runner, a winner I should say, which was suited by what turned out to be an unusually fast pace set in the event. Now, the inquiry that followed found that there was no case to answer, but the chairman of Queensland Racing, Bob Bentley, believes further investigation into the role of jockey manager is important from an integrity point of view. Alan Thomas spoke to him yesterday.
What is the future for jockeys managers? Will they become licensees?
Well, they are licensed at the moment, and there's certain restrictions placed on them. But I think it's a national issue, and we'll take it to the Australian Racing Board to have a look into the situation, just to make sure that this sort of circumstances doesn't happen again.
Do you think they have an unfair advantage in the fact that they can manage jockeys and punt, but perhaps don't have to be accountable?
Yeah, I think if you put it that way, yes. I mean, there is a certain aspect to it, but as far as jockeys managers are concerned, I think in lots of cases, I mean, they do help the jockeys. I mean, I don't think we should outlaw anything like that. I think we just should make sure that these sort of circumstances don't impede on the integrity of racing.
The industry wants 7-day-a-week racing. Jockeys physically and time-wise can't have time to be booking their rides. And for that reason, the industry has licensed jockeys. Every agent has to be licensed by the controlling body of the state or wherever to have a licence, and they must abide by the rules, therefore. I mean, there's no rule that says jockey managers can't bet. Is there some suggestion we have to back every horse that our jockeys ride? Is some suggestion that trainers who sell up a run have to back their own horses? I mean, this is quite a furphy, really, and I think there's a bigger picture involved in Queensland racing in this.
Yeah, Bruce Clark, what do you think on it?
I think it's ludicrous. I think the buck stops with the jockey. It should come
Correct.
back on the jockey.
Yeah,
The manager may have some input saying, "Oh, I think there's no speed in this race." You should talk to the trainer about that and see what his thoughts are on the race. But it stops with the jockey. He's got to ride to instructions.
Yeah. Jockey managers do a lot of form for their jockeys because they have to know which horse they think is the best ride in the race. So they're doing form in the race all the time. Yeah, they're doing the tapes and they're giving their jockey advice on. I think there's speed in this race, but in the end,
they're not
the
telling
jockey
them how to
doesn't
ride.
exactly.
They're giving a point of view, which they talk to the trainer before they get on the horse.
And you know, by as you say, the responsibility falls back on the jockey. If he rides it contrary to instructions or with another agenda in mind for another horse winning, well, he's the same as any other jockey who rides that way. Just because his manager told him to do it, does it lessen his culpability? I don't think so.
The comments were made there by Bruce Snowy Clark. What a stable he's got. Chris Muntz, Damien Oliver and Craig Newitt. Good trifecta.
Certainly is. He's obviously a very good manager too.
He is. He's a very, very good manager.
OK, but what's the situation if a jockey overrides the trainer's instructions?
The manager?
Yeah, the manager should say. Yeah.
Well, it's just not on.
No.
You know?
Well, but
how can the manager overrule instructions?
The jockey should know not to do that. I mean, if some punter leans over the fence and tells him to do something the trainer didn't do, what, does he do that too? And then says, oh, well, it's not my fault, the punter told me to do it.
That's the innuendo in the Gold Coast.
It is, isn't it?
In the Gold Coast incident. If there's anything about it, the stewards would have took action.
Yeah.
And there's no action being taken. I think it's a storm in a teacup.
Got bigger problems, as Bruce Clark said, they've got bigger problems in Queensland racing than that. That's for sure.
Yeah. Brucey Clark. He's come a long way, Bruce, hasn't he? Well, he came from as a journo up in Queensland.
With the Courier Mail.
With the Courier Mail, very good one too. Well done, Bruce Clark. OK, and speaking of Queensland, the